Lu Zhou looked at the longevity sword in his hand and asked, "When did you enter the 8 leaves?" Yanrong thought for a moment and replied, "It's been almost 100 years, I think. I can't quite remember." As soon as these words were spoken, the onlookers exclaimed in surprise. Yanrong still looked so young. How could people not envy and hate him? Turning back to look at the few old men of the Elder Pavilion, it's true that comparing people can be infuriating. The most ashamed was Hua Wudao, who, in appearance, looked older than both Lung Luo and Pan Lidian, yet he was only at 7 leaves, with the 8th leaf seemingly out of reach. Everyone said that the 9 disciples of the Evil Sky Pavilion were all extraordinarily talented, and indeed they were. This made them recall that quirky Mr. Ninth, Little Yuaner. She had been a disciple for less than 6 years, and at this rate of cultivation, it wouldn't be long before she surpassed her fellow disciples to become the top one. Lu Zhou stroked his beard while looking at Yanrong and continued to ask, "Why are you not at 9 leaves?" This question was one he had considered deeply. With Yanrong's talent, 100 years should have been enough for him to break through to 9 leaves. Yanrong answered, "I want to live." Upon hearing this, Lu Zhou recalled what Gong Yuandu had said. Both Yanrong and Yinghai were 8-leaf strongmen. Perhaps they had made similar attempts. The already deceased Gian Ien of Cloud Illuminating Hermitage had confirmed this. Does 9 leaves draw on lifespan? And like Yinghai, are you deliberately suppressing your cultivation? Hearing this question, Yanrong shook his head helplessly. No one in this world can overcome this ultimate limit. 9 leaves is just a forbidden zone set by the heavens. Anyone who tries to enter the forbidden zone will lose their life. From the first day I became a disciple, I knew this. Why do you still persist? Lu Zhou frowned and said, "Does this old man need your guidance in what he does?" "I dare not," Yanrong quickly responded. To others, Lu Zhou was genuinely an 8-leaf golden lotus of the nascent divinity tribulation realm. At the Avatar's perfect completion stage, it was only natural for him to seek breakthrough to 9 leaves. So, this dialogue seemed more like a disciple advising his master not to make pointless attempts. Why oppose the truth? However, only Lu Zhou himself knew his cultivation was only at the divine court realm of the Dao transformation stage. Lu Zhou said indifferently, "Someone, take the longevity sword away." The two of them were instantly stunned. Among those present, they were the youngest and of the lowest status. So, it was only natural for them to do the menial tasks. However, to offend Yanrong was tantamount to asking for their deaths. Pan Zhong and Zhou Jifeng, like brothers in hardship, exchanged encouraging glances and walked over to Yanrong, bowing together. "We're sorry, Second Master. For a cultivator pursuing the pinnacle of swordsmanship, the sword is as important as life itself. How could Yanrong willingly part with it? The sword exists as long as I do." Yanrong knelt again, pressing the longevity sword to the ground. The crowd sighed in awe, not expecting the proud Second Master to make such a gesture for the sake of his sword. But on reflection, the person he was bowing to was his master, his mentor. Regardless of the past, Lu Zhou was worthy of his kneeling. Pan Zhong and Zhou Jifeng looked at each other, at a loss. Naturally, they dared not go forward to forcibly take it, and could only watch helplessly at Yanrong. Lu Zhou frowned slightly and said, "You rely too heavily on the longevity sword, so much so that your swordsmanship has stagnated." Yanrong lowered his head and responded, "My swordsmanship is not limited by the weapon, but by the golden lotus. Master, the sword exists as long as I do." His emotions were clearly fluctuating. Lu Zhou was silent for a moment, then said, "I give you a chance. Win against me, and the sword stays." The crowd shook their heads after hearing this. How could he win? The disparity in strength was so great. It was not an opportunity, but a refusal. Yanrong did not speak, gripping the longevity sword tightly, his mood no different from Duan Muxing's before him. Knowing defeat was certain, yet still willing to try. With sword in hand, he stepped forward, using the simplest and most decisive movements to dart forward. In a swordsmanship stripped of primal energy, the contest was about skill. The sword thrust out. Lu Zhou slapped the blade with a single palm. Stab, strike, point, pick, shave, chop. Every usable technique was displayed to its fullest at this moment, dazzling to behold. Yanrong, with only the strength of his body, brought up gusts of fresh wind, elegant and graceful. The mantra of the returning to the origin sword technique, from beginner to final, every word emerged in his mind. At the beginning, the sword is like a shadow. In the middle, the sword is like the wind. In the end, the sword is like a fierce storm. However, Lu Zhou remained composed, continuously clapping. The millennium of cultivation memory seemed as if experienced firsthand, and the returning to the origin sword technique was always taught by him to Yanrong. In terms of understanding, he was no less than Yanrong. Moreover, he had gathered the strengths of many, knew the art of choosing and discarding, and although aged, he did not appear at all like one of his age should. Yanrong was fast, but Lu Zhou was even faster. The Pavilion Lord's palms, each perfectly timed, landed on the longevity sword, creating resounding thuds. The crowd shook their heads as they watched, inevitably sighing. Pavilion Lord knew the returning to the origin sword technique too well. Every move and style of Second Master was under the control of the Pavilion Lord. Hua Wudao said, from the moment Second Master made his move, he had already lost. He was inherently less skilled than Pavilion Lord, and suppressed in momentum, confidence, and mentality, he lost his edge. Bang! This time, Lu Zhou struck fiercely, suddenly exerting force, his palm heavily hitting the longevity sword. Yu Shangrong's grip loosened, and the sword flew from his hand. The longevity sword hit the ground, and the battle ended. Lu Zhou withdrew his palm, stood with his hands behind his back, and indifferently watched the longevity sword on the ground. Before the reflection cave, all was silent. Yu Shangrong's arrogance was further suppressed and crushed. The fearsome sword demon couldn't even withstand a single move in front of the old demon. He looked dejectedly at his master Lu Zhou and asked in a low voice, "Did you hold back?" Hearing the question, Lu Zhou stroked his beard and waved his sleeve, scolding, "You are far from achieving greatness in swordsmanship. The same goes for you, Yinghai." Yu Shangrong said nothing. Victors justify. Losers have no excuse. Whatever the winner says is right. Lu Zhou looked at his expression, which seemed somewhat unconvinced. Thus, Lu Zhou continued, "Returning, I enter the three souls, entering the fetal light, vibrant spirit, and mysterious essence. The fetal light resides in physical strength, the vibrant spirit in will and soul, and the mysterious essence in the undying, limitless way. The soul is Yin, the spirit is Yang. It is ingrained in your heart. Since you are unconvinced, then I will teach you again what true swordsmanship is." He suddenly recalled the knowledge from before his transmigration, where two memories unconsciously merged, giving him new insights into cultivation. Yu Shangrong was too proud. If his pride were not suppressed, he might not truly understand the essence of swordsmanship. After a moment's thought, Lu Zhou spoke calmly, "The highest realm of swordsmanship is to win without a sword." Hearing this, not just Yu Shangrong, but everyone present was baffled. Instead, Duan Mushing suddenly recalled when the barrier was broken, and the master personally demonstrated heaven's favor as flaws above the evil sky pavilion. At that time, he had an epiphany, but did not fully understand, so he listened more earnestly than the others. The three elders of the Elder Pavilion were immediately intrigued, wanting to hear the Pavilion Lord's profound views. The others held their breath, not wanting to miss a single word, hoping to gain some insight. Lu Zhou slowly said, "The sword is divided into three levels. The first level, the commoner's sword, is available to everyone, from peddlers and foot soldiers to emperors and their ministers. It is merely used for committing acts of violence and showing off in public. The second level, the sword of the saints, uses bravery as its edge, loyalty and righteousness as its knights, competing in the way of the sword. The third level, the emperor's sword, uses the 100 nations as its edge, the mountains and seas as its blade, governed by the 5 elements, initiated by Yin and Yang, upheld through spring and summer, and executed through autumn and winter. It is unparalleled in the world, and all submit to it. The same applies to the saber." At this point, there was silence, and only Lu Zhou's voice could be heard, each word echoing in everyone's ears. "This is the Taoist perspective, and you, competing in the way of the sword, are at most second level." Yu Shangrong's expression was complex as he pondered. "According to this, does my senior brother Yu Zhenghai, who aims to conquer the world and have it submit, does his saber rank at the third level?" Lu Zhou noticed the change in his expression and, knowing his thoughts, proactively said, "Yu Zhenghai wishes to use the 100 nations as his edge to have the world submit, but alas, he lacks the capability. At most he is second level." Yu Shangrong's curiosity was piqued as he asked, "Then who ranks at the third level?" Lu Zhou answered, "The sword prodigy from the north capital, Gong Yuandu, could be the emperor's sword. Emperor Yongshou, Lu Gu, could be the emperor's sword." Hearing this, the people of the Elder Pavilion were all puzzled. They had witnessed Gong Yuandu's swordsmanship firsthand, a truly stunning figure. In terms of swordsmanship, he was indeed top-notch. However, if he were to face Yu Shangrong, they did not believe Gong Yuandu could defeat him. Why would the Pavilion Lord rank Gong Yuandu as third level? Emperor Yongshou, Lu Gu, did indeed support the world with his sword and could be called the emperor's sword, but both these men are deceased, and comparing the dead with the living seems overly harsh. Throughout history, countless heroes have emerged. How could the present claim to surpass them? Unable to restrain his inner doubts, Hua Wudao respectfully asked, "If that is the case, then is the current Emperor Yongqing also to be called the emperor's sword?" Lu Zhou stroked his beard and slowly shook his head. "No, Yongshou opened the edge of 100 nations and established the Great Flame Realm. Yongqing merely succeeded by heredity, not deserving the title of the emperor's sword." Lin Luo immediately followed up with a question. "Gong Yuandu indeed comes from North Capital, but he was just a solitary cultivator who did not establish a country or rule the world. In the 100 years before his death, he even hid in a coffin. Why then can he be called the emperor's sword?" This question was exactly what everyone was thinking, and all eyes focused on Lu Zhou. With an air of lightness, Lu Zhou stroked his beard and answered, "He contested fate with the heavens and the earth, fearless in life and death." He shifted his tone and glanced indifferently over the crowd. "Why has no one been able to successfully step into the 9 leaves to this day? If someone were to succeed, they could naturally create a new realm and be called the emperor's sword. But how many have fallen on this path, other than Gong Yuandu? Over 10,000 years, how many great cultivators have fallen midway? Countless who challenged fate with the heavens and earth. Are they all the emperor's sword?" Lu Zhou stroked his beard, nodded, and remained non-committal. The crowd was initially stunned, then came to a realization. Hearing this, Yu Shangrong lowered his head. His swordsmanship, which he took pride in, was not even considered third level in his master's eyes. His master was right. He could not refute. After all, his swordsmanship was merely competing in the way of the sword. Lu Zhou glanced at Yu Shangrong and thought, young people are indeed young. If I can't handle you, then my 1,000 years have indeed been lived in vain. He continued, whether it's the Taoist or Confucian paths, neither is the highest realm. No sword wins over having a sword. Everything in the world can be a sword. Water benefits all things without contention, residing in what people dislike. Thus it is nearly akin to the Tao. As soon as he finished speaking, his right hand suddenly lifted, and between his index and middle finger, a sword forceful energy condensed. That sword forceful energy gently vibrated, splitting into 2, 2 into 4, 4 into 8. In front of the reflection cave, the ancient tree trembled accordingly. The sharp forceful energy wind, like a sharp blade, swept across everyone's faces. Fortunately, they were all cultivators, tempered and able to withstand this slight force. Nevertheless, the Pavilion Lord's demonstration made them understand what it means to win without a sword. Although they understood the principle, how many could actually achieve this? This kind of control not only requires meticulous mastery of primal energy, but also involves pulling leaves and moving air currents while gathering primal energy. Without over 100 years of tempering, it is almost impossible to achieve. Yu Shangrong, who has relied on the longevity sword for years, how could he practice these? He was thoroughly convinced, both in heart and word. The old demon Lu Zhou, with just one demonstration of winning without a sword, completely subdued the always proud sword demon Yu Shangrong. The height of thought determines the height of the sword. Understanding of the sword determines the level of swordsmanship. This lesson from Lu Zhou was a comprehensive overpowering of Yu Shangrong. Yu Shangrong was stunned for a moment, then bowed and said, disciple is enlightened. Ding. Tutoring Yu Shangrong, rewarded with 500 points of merit. Mentoring Duan Musheng, rewarded with 200 points of merit. His heart was a mix of many feelings. During the initial period of his discipleship, his master had never taught him swordsmanship with such earnestness. Who else but his master could talk to him like this? Lu Zhou noticed that the system used different terms. One was tutoring, the other was mentoring. Yu Shangrong's cultivation in swordsmanship indeed no longer needed mentoring. What he needed more was tutoring. Lu Zhou suddenly remembered that missing piece of memory and recalled the phrase Yu Shangrong had once said, do you want to kill me again? It seems Yu Shangrong did not want to repeat the past, unwilling to mention that history, reluctantly so. Reflect well in the reflection cave. After leaving these words behind, Lu Zhou turned and walked away, not taking Yu Shangrong's longevity sword with him. Lin Luo, Pan Lidian, and Hua Wudao followed suit. With the departure of the 4 elders from the Elder Pavilion, the oppressive atmosphere in front of the reflection cave immediately lightened considerably. Yu Shangrong watched his master's retreating figure, not realizing when his palms had started to sweat. He suddenly called out to Xuhong. Ha! Xuhong stopped in his tracks, shivering. Yu Shangrong smiled warmly and said, come here, second senior brother. I belong to the South Pavilion. Don't be nervous. Tell me honestly, has master already stepped into the 9 leaves? He asked this not without reason. In swordsmanship, his understanding and attainment were unique. Even though he knew he was no match for his master, he should not have lost so thoroughly. There could be only one explanation. That is, master has entered the 9 leaves. Xuhong, upon hearing this, was immediately astonished. No way, second senior brother. What 9 leaves? I don't know. Don't look at me like that. I really don't know. Yu Shangrong pondered silently. To contend with heaven and earth is to be the sword of the emperor. But if even life is lost, what does the 3rd rank mean? He recalled what Siwuya had once said. Master may have found a way to break the ultimate limit. That's why he speaks so highly. At this time, in the Great Hall, the 4 members of the Elder Pavilion took their seats. Lu Zhou asked, 3 elders, as people of vast experience and knowledge, do you know of fragrant grass? Lin Luo answered, I have heard of it. Fragrant grass is said to grow on Little Salt Mount, where the land is barren. No plants grow, and it snows in all seasons. Pan Lidian, well-informed and experienced, not inferior to Lin Luo, added, I have also heard of fragrant grass, a flower that blooms for only one day, opening in the morning and withering by evening. Flowers bloom one after another continuously, hence it is also called the everlasting flower. Although its blooming period is very long, the lifespan of fragrant grass itself is extremely short, so people have given it many other names. Everlasting flower, symbolizing perpetual blooming, never fading. Hua Wudao, hearing this, bowed and said, I've learned something new. Lu Zhou had hoped Hua Wudao might provide some valuable information, but it seems that hope was misplaced. Lin Luo continued, the characteristics of fragrant grass are quite unique, therefore few people wish to cultivate or grow it, and now it is almost unseen in great flame. Why does the Pavilion Lord ask? Lu Zhou did not answer immediately, but pondered for a moment. The information provided by Lin Luo and Pan Lidian was similar to what he knew. He recalled what Yu Shangrong had previously said. Fragrant grass is a plant from his hometown, with a very short lifespan, and this plant is very likely a unique species from Gentleman Country. Yu Shangrong comes from Gentleman Country, and the system just happened to give a task related to the lifespan of fragrant grass. Could it be that the missing memories involve something about Yu Shangrong's identity? Is that why Yu Shangrong felt such remorse when he was captured? Thinking this, Lu Zhou no longer beat around the bush and directly asked, Elders, do you know of Gentleman Country? Upon hearing this, this? Pan Lydian appeared thoughtful, then nodded and said, the Pavilion Lord has reminded this old man. Indeed, the records state that Gentleman Country was abundant in fragrant grass. Sadly, Gentleman Country no longer exists. Lingzhou asked further, why did it disappear? It is said that the people of Gentleman Country had extremely short lifespans, just like fragrant grass. They greatly cherished fragrant grass and took great care of it, but unfortunately, their lifespans were too short. Cultivators generally have long lifespans, and over time, Gentleman Country was gradually outcompete and eventually disappeared without a trace. Lingluo continued, ironically, Gentleman Country, like the White Citizen, belonged to the Emperor under the heavens. Now, Little Salt Mount has long been a part of Great Flame. It's just that it's snow-covered all year round and uninhabited. Lingzhou continued to inquire, where's Little Salt Mount? Pan Lydian bowed and answered, northwest of Yong Province. In the past, this old man was defending the frontier, driving the foreign tribes from the southwest to the north, and was severely injured and captured. The tribes drove me to the northern frontier, passing by Little Salt Mount. The Blackwood Forest and Little Salt Mount are not far apart, and Little Salt Mount itself is not large. Although I was close, I never saw it with my own eyes. Later, the tribes threw me into Blackwood Forest, where I experienced various life and death situations and fortunately survived. Hua Wudao spoke up, Pavilion Lord, what is the purpose of these inquiries? Lingzhou did not answer but stood up and said, if there's nothing else, you may all leave. I take my leave. This old fellow provides information poorly, yet asks quite a few questions. I can't be bothered with him. Since Yanrong is from Gentleman Country, how did he spend those 275 years since becoming a disciple? Lingzhou pondered for a moment, then slowly stood up and said, if there's nothing else, you may all leave. Elder Lung, stay behind. After Pan Lydian and Hua Wudao had left, Lingzhou inquired, what's the follow-up on the matter at Will Manor? Lingluo replied, after Moli died, Gian Ien killed the second prince, Lu Huan. Zhao Yu is the orphan of Princess Yunzhao, and with the Empress Dowager's protection, there's no need to worry. The most troublesome at the moment is Gian Ien. Gian Ien killed Lu Huan? This was unexpected for Lingzhou. After all, Gian Ien has always been cautious and reluctant to provoke trouble. It seems they should be back by now. For other matters, the Pavilion Lord will still need to ask Ming Shirin. After Lingluo took his leave, Lingzhou noted that his loyalty was much higher than before. Such a defiant person, willingly staying at Evil Sky Pavilion, is actually a good thing. Earlier, Lingzhou had thought that such a person would be difficult to manage. After all, one mountain cannot contain two tigers. But now, it seems everything is much smoother than expected. Lingzhou stroked his beard and pondered, is this my personal charisma? Meanwhile, in a branch of the Underworld sect, in the dimly lit Great Hall, only a faint light shone from above. Yinghai finished channeling his energy, slowly opened his eyes, and said in a deep voice, second junior brother, I have always underestimated you. At this moment, his vital energy had returned to normal, and his complexion had improved a lot. At this moment, Hua Chongyang, the head of Azure Dragon Hall, walked in from outside the hall and bowed, saying, subordinate congratulates the sect leader on his recovery. Yinghai merely glanced at him and did not respond. He really lacks tact. When have I ever been injured in a fight? What is it? Hua Chongyang awkwardly lowered his hands and replied, Mr. Seventh arrived at the branch yesterday and requests an audience. Seventh junior brother is here? Bring him in quickly. Yinghai's eyes lit up and his spirits lifted. Soon, Hua Chongyang brought Siwuya into the great hall. Seeing the fluctuations of primal energy around him, Yinghai exclaimed joyfully, seventh junior brother, has your cultivation recovered? Siwuya nodded. Just luck. That's wonderful. Yinghai stepped forward and patted his shoulder heavily. Ever since you blocked the body-binding divine spell for me, I haven't been eating or sleeping well, worrying every day about how to break the divine spell for you. It seems even the heavens have heard my prayers. Siwuya thought silently, all right, whatever you say is right. Yinghai's tone became especially warm. Seventh junior brother, I left in such a hurry that day. I forgot about you. You won't hold it against me, will you? Siwuya immediately felt goosebumps all over, calling himself your brother with every other word. It did indeed sound very intimate. He waved his hand and said, elder brother, you are too kind. Today, I came here because there is something I need to tell you. Yinghai frowned and asked, what's the matter? Why come in person? You just recovered your cultivation. You could have just sent a letter. Why did you have to come yourself? Siwuya said. Second senior brother was taken away by master. At this, Yinghai was taken aback. The air suddenly grew tense, and the hall fell into silence. As the leader of the Underworld sect, commanding tens of thousands of followers and having experienced countless life and death situations over the years, he had become desensitized and developed a strong heart. From the life and death of a single person to the fall of a city, through all the ups and downs, nothing had stirred him. But Siwuya's words had him completely stunned. Yinghai was silent for a long time before finally asking, when did this happen? Siwuya answered, at the cloud illuminating forest. Right after you left, master arrived. Yinghai frowned, remembering the day he rode the flying chariot away. He did indeed see a broken flight near Purple Mist Mountain, and he saw master on the flying chariot. At that time, having just fought Yanrong to a draw and feeling frustrated, he only ordered someone to investigate investigate the origin of the flying chariot and didn't think much of it. He hadn't realized that was when Yanrong was taken by Master. Master is old, and with second junior brother's skills, even if he was injured, he should have been able to leave easily. Seeing his confusion, Siwei then recounted everything he had witnessed that day. Hearing that Master had struck down one of the 3 great sword madmen of the Cloud sect, Luo Changqing, Yinghai shook his head and said, 7th junior brother, are you sure about this? He found it hard to believe, as Luo Changqing, however weak, shouldn't have been killed in one strike. Even he himself would find it difficult to achieve that. Siwei replied, I saw it with my own eyes. Yinghai frowned slightly. You said earlier that Master had used up the barrier's power to maintain his condition while discussing Tao with the Lotus Platform and the Heaven Sword sect. How could he still have killed Luo Changqing? Siwei pondered for a moment and said, that's why I suspect that Master might indeed have found a way, either to break the ultimate limit or to extend it. Hearing this, Yinghai was stunned again. The lifespan limit is an immutable truth for cultivators. Thousands of years have passed since the beginning of cultivation. How many have broken it? I mean no disrespect to Master, but can a conclusion drawn by generations of sages be so easily overturned? Siwei said, but descendants are always standing on the shoulders of their predecessors. His thinking is different from Yinghai. No matter how many predecessors have failed, it doesn't mean it will never be successful. Yinghai continued to ask, if that's the case, why would Master need to capture second senior brother? Siwei was momentarily at a loss for words, not having thought this through. Perhaps, does Master really want to revive Evil Sky Pavilion? If the limit has indeed been broken, then the 9 leaves cultivation level can be broken as well. With the power of 9 leaves, why would he need anyone else's help? Siwei frowned and did not continue. The last time they took down the Clarity sect, Yinghai did not believe him, and it would be the same this time. Stubborn people have deep-rooted ways of thinking that can't be shaken by a few words. It's better not to say anything at all. Just then, Di Qing walked in from outside. Greetings to the sect leader and Mr. 7th. We have checked the wreckage of that flying chariot, and it can be confirmed that the flying chariot came from demon-slaying sect. Upon hearing this, Hua Chongyang was somewhat puzzled. Ren Buping is dead, and most of his territory has been taken over by the Underworld sect. Danan Shing has taken over as the new master of the demon-slaying sect and is no longer expanding his power. How could he be involved with our elder? Yinghai snorted in displeasure. The petty demon-slaying sect dares to cause trouble behind our backs. Sect leader, I am willing to lead troops to wipe out the demon-slaying sect. The demon-slaying sect is struggling to survive. They are not worth mentioning. Siwei shook his head. It's too late. Yinghai's spirit perked up. 7th junior brother, whatever thoughts you have, feel free to speak. Siwei hesitated, feeling that today's big brother was unusually enthusiastic compared to usual. Ren Buping is dead. The demon-slaying sect is no longer to be feared. There's no need to divert our focus to deal with them. It's not worth it. Moreover, Danan Shing has found a backer and master. Siwei stopped there. Yinghai laughed. 7th junior brother is always the rational one. Now that both the Clarity sect and the Orthodox sect have been annihilated by me, in your opinion, what should our next step be? Siwei suddenly realized why his big brother was so enthusiastic. The expansion of the Underworld sect was rapid and probably had attracted the royal family's attention. The 4th prince, Lu Bing, has already returned to the capital, and Wei Zhuoyan has taken his place to go to the frontier. Big brother, you need to be careful. Yinghai snorted. Against me? Siwei said. It's just a guess. But now a significant figure has emerged who can divert the royal family's attention. Yinghai asked, who is it? Siwei answered, the royal family of Great Yin, the 3rd prince, Gian Ien. Meanwhile, at the foothills of Golden Court Mountain, Ming Shirin was ushering people up the mountain and looked back at Gian Ien saying, don't just stand there. It's not your first time here. Gian Ien's eyes darted around, and he whispered, brother, we've been through life and death together. Say a few good words for me in front of the elder later. Ming Shirin made a disgusted face. Not a chance. Stay away from me. Who's your brother? Gian Ien, speechless, then approached Zhao Yu and said, Zhao Yu, by seniority, I'm your brother. Zhao Yu, slightly disgusted, snorted lightly. Scram. Ming Shirin stopped walking. Hurry up, enough with the nonsense. Gian Ien quickly followed. Ming brother is always nice to me. The reason he came to Evil Sky Pavilion, of course, was because he had trouble. Now in Divine Capital, everyone knows the 2nd prince, Lu Huan, died at Heaven's Will Manor. Soon, everyone reached the mountain. Just as they arrived at Evil Sky Pavilion, 2 female disciples greeted them. Welcome, Mr. 4th, Mr. 5th, Mr. 9th. Ming Shirin nodded. Where's Master now? One female disciple answered. The Pavilion Lord is resting, and 2nd Master has already returned to Evil Sky Pavilion. Upon hearing this, everyone was startled. Say that again. The female disciple, intimidated by Ming Shirin's demeanor, repeated. 2nd Master has already returned to Evil Sky Pavilion. The traitor dares to return? Where is he now? In the reflection cave, reflecting on his mistakes. Hearing this, Ming Shirin spoke seriously. I'll go and teach this traitor a lesson later. Just then, a black figure stood in the distance and said, Mr. 4th may not know, but the Pavilion Lord traveled thousands of miles to the cloud illuminating forest to kill the sword madman Luo Changqing and capture 2nd Master. master. Ming Shirin looked up at him. Who are you? Demon-slaying sect. Danan Shing has met all the gentlemen. At Cloud Illuminating Forest, I witnessed with my own eyes a battle of the ages, unforgettable for a lifetime, especially the fight between the eldest master and the second master. Upon hearing this, Ming Shirin immediately perked up. He knew his elder and second senior brothers as well as anyone present, and he was aware of their terrifying cultivation levels, naturally curious about the details of their battle. How intense was it? Come on, tell me. Danan Shing, having been about to burst staying in Evil Sky Pavilion, eagerly approached Ming Shirin and began. Do you know 100 Leaves Lake? Near Cloud Illuminating Forest, the lake spans 1,000 miles. The eldest master and second master started their fight at 100 Leaves Lake. The scene was beyond human capability. The eldest master's single strike actually split 100 Leaves Lake. Danan Shing spoke animatedly, exaggerating, frequently throwing in phrases like 1,000 miles around or 10,000 feet high, and the audience looked on incredulously, yet Ming Shirin was getting into it, nodding enthusiastically as if discovering new continents, occasionally responding, that fierce, that powerful. Danan Shing's pitch rose uncontrollably. At a critical moment in their fight, second master used the move returning. I enter the three souls. Guess what happened? The sky and clouds changed color. I felt suffocated even 10 miles away. I'm a four-leaf golden lotus and I couldn't withstand it. Ming Shirin scratched his head, puzzled. The Cloud Illuminating Forest is known for its towering trees. 10 miles away. How could you see? Danan Shing continued. That's not important. You could feel it from 10 miles away. The important part is entering the three souls. Guess how eldest senior brother countered this move? Could it be eldest brother's great mysterious heavenly seal? Mr. Fourth is sharp. It was indeed the great mysterious heavenly seal. Eldest master's move ruling the world rolled out primal energy, breaking mountains and rivers. Danan Shing paused, his tone dramatic, as if lightning flashed and thunder rolled. An old predecessor emerged out of nowhere, a sword ruling over all, a slash severing the three souls. Unfortunately, the eldest master had four great protectors, who arrived on a flying chariot and whisked the eldest master away, capturing only the second master. Ming Shirin spoke somewhat pensively. Master alone killed Moli and his 10 generals at Will Manor. If not for the incident at Will Manor, the eldest brother couldn't have escaped. Danan Shing agreed, nodding. Indeed, I was there at the time too. He wanted to continue, but Ming Shirin stopped him. Hold on, I saw this part with my own eyes. No need for your tall tales. You all wait here to see master later. I'm going to check out the reflection cave first. Little Yuan also wants to come along. Ming Shirin shook his head. Stay here. The grievances of men are not for women to meddle in. Watching Ming Shirin's back as he headed to the reflection cave, Danan Shing bowed in admiration. Mr. Fourth truly distinguishes love and respect clearly. In my life, I admire people like Mr. Fourth the most. Little Yuaner straightened her little finger. Fourth's senior brother is probably going to be at a disadvantage. Second senior brother's cultivation could beat 10 fourth senior brothers. Oh no, 20, 100. Danan Shing laughed. Miss Ninth is mistaken. Mr. Second's cultivation has been sealed by our respected master. A moment later, Ming Shirin arrived in front of the reflection cave. He was brewing a heap of criticisms for the traitor, just about to enter, but before he could speak, Yanrong's voice came out. Fourth junior brother, you've come. Ming Shirin paused, thinking, how can he tell it's me? Yanrong, holding the longevity sword, walked out of the reflection cave and spoke gently. Eldest brother walks with heavy steps. Third brother's steps vary between hurried and slow. Only fourth brother walks lightly but briskly. Seeing this, Ming Shirin smiled and said, second senior brother, as soon as I heard you were back, I immediately came to pay my respects. Yanrong, looking calm, nodded. No need for such formalities among family. Second senior brother, I heard from Danan Shing that you had a fight with eldest brother. Yanrong calmly nodded. That's right. Who won? I always knew second senior brother's swordsmanship was excellent. Hearing Ming Shirin's praise, Yanrong shook his head. I used to think my swordsmanship was unrivaled in this world, only surpassed by master. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Reflecting for half a day in the reflection cave made me realize that swordsmanship is far more than this. I still have a long way to go. Ming Shirin, confused, responded, you still have a long way to go? Then who in the world isn't far behind? It's best for senior brother to come back. Don't go against master. He has changed a lot recently, not so irascible anymore. Yanrong, having known this from the information provided by Siwuya, asked with a smile, fourth junior brother, what do you think of second senior brother as a person? Ming Shirin looked puzzled at his senior brother. I don't know why he's suddenly asking this. Second senior brother is humble and polite. This is known to all. Why ask? And second senior brother always acts with propriety and manners, truly a gentleman. Ming Shirin gave a thumbs up and added, every word from the heart. Yanrong furrowed his brows, the last remark sounding oddly familiar. Then tell me honestly, has master truly reached the 9 leaves? 9 leaves? Ming Shirin was taken aback, then laughed. Second senior brother, don't joke with me. What 9 leaves? Seeing Ming Shirin not seeming to joke, Yanrong began to ponder deeply. Just then, a female disciple appeared nearby and bowed slightly. Mr. Fourth, the Pavilion Lord requests your presence. Ming Shirin waved his his hand, cleared his throat, and stood up straight. This gentleman will be there shortly. Yanrong nodded. Second senior brother, rest well. Let me know if you need anything. After speaking, Ming Shirin left the reflection cave and made his way to the Grand Hall of Evil Sky Pavilion. There he saw Jiao Ien, Zhao Yu, Danan Shing, and others waiting. Little Yuaner was the first to greet him. Fourth senior brother. How is second senior brother? Ming Shirin straightened his back, hands behind him. He's not in a great mood, perhaps because Master brought him back. But he has nothing to complain about. As a traitor of Evil Sky Pavilion, he should be aware of the consequences. I've already lectured him, and I believe he will behave properly from now on. Everyone was speechless at his words. Then, a voice came from the hall. Everyone, come in. The group then orderly entered the Grand Hall of Evil Sky Pavilion, where Lingzhou sat, his gaze sweeping over everyone, landing on the sycophantic face of Gian Ien at the front. Gian Ien, why are you not staying in Rune North, but running around to Evil Sky Pavilion? Gian Ien smiled. I was just missing you, elder, and brought some fine tributary tea leaves from the palace, treasures from 100 nations paid tribute, which many nobles don't even get to taste, as a gift to you, elder. Lu Zhou's expression remained indifferent. Unwarranted generosity usually means a hidden agenda. Gian Ien waved his hands hurriedly. According to our relationship, your fifth disciple is like my sister, and I'm like family to Evil Sky Pavilion. It's not too much for family to bring gifts, right? Everyone was speechless again. Zhao Yu sighed. In terms of shamelessness, I doubt there's anyone in the world who could surpass him. The crowd nodded in agreement while looking towards Ming Shirin, who looked innocent. Why are you looking at me? I haven't said or done anything. What does this have to do with me? Lu Zhou glanced at the tea leaves, clearly unconcerned. Having lived as long as I have, these worldly possessions hardly affect me. Speak, what is it? Gian Ien hurriedly spoke with a smile. I accidentally killed the second prince. The royal family won't let me off for that. How could they let me off? Could I trouble you, elder, to kill me? Ming Shirin heard this and rushed over with his weapon. This is my specialty. Gian Ien saw this and quickly changed his words. I didn't mean actual killing. Now the great flame royal family is looking everywhere for me. I've already severed ties with my brothers and have no place to go. I figured the Evil Sky Pavilion would be safe. Lu Zhou understood his intentions when he heard this. You want to stay here for a while? Senior is wise. Gian Ien nodded repeatedly. Lu Zhou stroked his beard. You are my eyes and ears, so naturally, I'll protect you. Gian Ien was deeply moved and bowed. Thank you, senior. Lu Zhou frowned slightly and looked at him, saying with a mischievous grin, you still won't speak? Speak about what? Gian Ien asked, looking confused. You are the third prince. The crime of killing the second prince, no matter where it is placed, will be a mark of eternal disgrace. The others nodded. The master's words were spot on. All along, Gian Ien had been grinning like nothing had happened. The person he killed wasn't just the second prince of the great flame royal family, it was his own elder brother. Seeing Lu Zhou's serious and solemn expression, Gian Ien's smile gradually faded. He then sighed softly. The dead are gone. There's nothing more to say. Lu Zhou continued. Was it really Lu Wan who set fire to Jingha Palace? You know about this? Gian Ien was a bit surprised. Lu Zhou explained. Prince Qi Qingjun is now one of mine. Gian Ien nodded. Alright, I almost forgot about him. The lone city's moon falls, and the wronged souls cry. The way of heaven has cycles. Those who commit sins will face retribution. Gian Ien fell silent for a moment before continuing. Actually, many people have advised me to let go of my hatred, forget the past, and not get involved in the royal family anymore. It would be better to live freely as a swordsman. But, he paused, a hint of pain flashing in his eyes. Every time I fall asleep, I think of that great fire, burning red, searing my eyes. I can't sleep the whole night. When night falls, I often hear their cries for help, their screams, but I was powerless. Gian Ien sighed heavily as he said this. In the end, one person bore all of it. Thankfully, I met you all. If you feel moved, just be a little kinder to me in the future, and I'll be content. The front part sounded sincere, but the latter part seemed so insincere. It's not that he lacked emotion, but some things, after being done with sincerity for so long, had to be let go. Zhao Yu rolled her eyes at him and stopped paying attention to him. Instead, she walked forward and bowed to Lu Zhou, saying, Master, there is something else I need to report. My grandmother has never been in good health, and the events at Heaven's Will Garden hit her hard. After falling ill, she has never recovered. Zhao Yu spoke while kneeling. I've delayed so much in divine capital. I hope Master can forgive me. Lu Zhou waved his hand. It's good that you're filial. Thank you, Master. Zhao Yu turned and gave Gian Ien a meaningful glance. Gian Ien awkwardly scratched his head, then shamelessly said, Master, to be honest, the Empress Dowager is very sick, and I'm afraid she may not survive the winter. Lu Zhou understood the implication. The palace is full of experts, and the imperial physicians are highly skilled. If you want me to intervene, I'm afraid that's wishful thinking. Zhao Yu said, it's witchcraft. Witchcraft. This surprised Lu Zhou. Recalling the events at Heaven's Will Garden, there was no major witchcraft formation set up, nor were there any witchcraft traps. How could the Empress Dowager have fallen victim to witchcraft? Gian Ien explained, it's the witchcraft of Bama, a genius from Lulan. Lu Zhou didn't recall this person. Please allow me to explain. First, Bama is Moli's senior brother from Lulan. Bama once crossed hands with you during the Lotus Platform debate, and you heavily injured his mount, Ba Wu. Third, during the Heavenswell Garden incident, Bama was lying in wait outside Heavenswell Garden. Gian Ien changed his tone here. Bama has clashed with you multiple times. After Molly died, he harbored resentment and used witchcraft on the Empress Dowager. He will eventually make a move on Evil Sky Pavilion. Lu Zhou stroked his beard, thinking, without responding. Gian Ien spoke again. Master, I won't ask you to act for nothing. I can help you deal with the traitor from Evil Sky Pavilion. 7th disciple Siwuya. Lu Zhou was somewhat skeptical. Do you have confidence in dealing with Siwuya? Gian Ien honestly replied, no. The others were speechless. If you have no confidence, why even say anything? Lu Zhou's gaze swept over Zhao Yu and Gian Ien. If you seek my help, you should come to me willingly. Gian Ien was overjoyed upon hearing this. Of course, with senior's words, I am at ease. Zhao Yu respectfully cowed out again. Disciple thanks master. At that moment, a voice came from outside the hall. Disciple greets master. Everyone turned to look and saw Xuhong start kneeling as he entered the hall, moving forward while kneeling, prostrating himself, knocking his head on the ground with every step. The floor was almost worn out from his cowhouse. This display left everyone speechless. As Evil Sky Pavilion's most skilled flatterer, Xuhong had perfected the art of shamelessness. Even in front of everyone, he still performed the 3 kneels and 9 cowhouse to show his respect. Lu Zhou frowned slightly as he watched. Xuhong reached the center of the hall and cowed out again, saying, Disciple greets master. Ming Shirin shot him a glare and said, Old 8th, what's so serious that you're acting like this? You're a disciple of Evil Sky Pavilion. Don't you care about losing the pavilion's face? Xuhong replied solemnly, Disciple must return to Evil Sky Pavilion. Since joining the pavilion, I have never properly performed this 3 kneels and 9 cowhouse to show my gratitude for my master's teachings. His reasoning does make sense. Lu Zhou's gaze once again fell on Xuhong. Name, Xuhong. Identity, Great Flame Human. Cultivation, Nascent Divinity Tribulation Realm. Just condensed 100 Tribulation Insight Avatar Cultivator. At the very least, he is at the Nascent Divinity Tribulation Realm. At this level, it is far beyond what the Divine Court Realm can compare to. Stand up and speak. Hearing this, Xuhong quickly stood up. Thank you, master. Let me see your avatar. Disciple obeys. Xuhong immediately activated his primal energy and summoned his avatar. This is a crucial step. Whether a cultivator can become a great cultivator often depends on whether they can condense the 100 Tribulation Insight Avatar. Countless cultivators have fallen in the 10 Directions universe. When reaching the 100 Tribulation Insight Avatar, the completeness of the avatar indicates the future potential. Little Yuana's avatar is extremely complete, even full of lively energy, and her future is promising. Some cultivators' 100 Tribulation Insight avatars are even deformed. These avatars may even struggle to activate. Soon, an avatar appeared before him, about half a person's height, resembling a chubby baby. The others couldn't help but laugh when they saw it. The avatar was just like its owner, chubby, though the completeness of the avatar was decent and the primal energy was abundant. Danan Shing clicked his tongue inwardly. This is Evil Sky Pavilion's 8th disciple. With such talent, how can he be overlooked in the future? As for the 9th disciple, there was no need to mention it. It was widely rumored that the 9th disciple, Xia Yuaner, had even more terrifying talent, entering Divine Court Realm in just 5 years, unprecedented and unparalleled. Xiao Yu felt a bit ashamed. After all, she had entered the pavilion earlier than Xuhong, and her clear jade technique was nearly perfected, yet she hadn't broken through. Seeing Xuhong's avatar, she felt a slight imbalance in her heart. Lu Zhou stroked his beard and nodded, casually waving his hand. With a whoosh, a purple glowing box fell in front of Xuhong. Xuhong was a bit confused. Master, what is this? I bestow upon you the tear-stained gauntlets. I hope you use them well. Upon hearing this, Xuhong was so moved that tears welled up in his eyes, and he knelt down. Thank you, master. Thank you, master. After saying this, Lu Zhou waved his hand again, and the box immediately split in 2. Perhaps this weapon was inherently compatible with Xuhong, for as soon as he received it, he heard 2 crisp clicks and easily put on the gauntlets. Ding! Tear-stained box activated. Owner identification, Xuhong. Reward, 1,000 merit points. Danan Shing watched, salivating. Congratulations, 8th brother. Zhao Yu smiled. Congratulations, old 8th. Ming Shirin was genuinely envious. This thing is really solid. Of course, even senior brother's jade blade can't cut it. You really hit the jackpot. After saying this, Ming Shirin thought to himself, the weapon is solid, but it's really ugly. I'll have to compliment it a few more times. Xuhong was overjoyed and loved the gauntlets immensely. Disciple will not disappoint master's expectations. Lu Zhou stroked his beard and nodded. He noticed that Xuhong's loyalty was rising rapidly and had reached a stable level. This was within his expectations. Lu Zhou then turned his gaze to Zhao Yu. Zhao Yu, during your time in the Imperial Palace, your cultivation has fallen behind. Zhao Yu blushed upon hearing this, feeling ashamed. Disciple will strive to improve and live up to master's expectations. Danan Shing chuckled. Master is truly dedicated to his disciples. I really admire you, elder. Lu Zhou glanced at him. Danan Shing, you performed well in the cloud illuminating forest forest. Naturally, I won't treat you poorly. Now, make a request, and I will try to fulfill it. Danan Shing was overjoyed upon hearing this and quickly bowed. I dare not. It is my honor to assist Elder. How could I claim credit? Lingzhou nodded. That's very good. This is not how this works. Shouldn't there be a few more polite words? I haven't even made my request yet. Do you expect me to keep everything to myself? Just as Danan Shing was anxiously thinking this, Lingzhou spoke again. If the Underworld sect knows its place, they will not disturb the demon-slaying sect in the future. With this statement, the demon-slaying sect was at least preserved. As for other requests, who would dare to be so extravagant? Thank you, Elder. See them off. If there's nothing else, everyone disperse. After saying this, Lingzhou stood up and returned to the Eastern Pavilion. At the same time, in the Longevity Tranquility Palace in the divine capital Imperial City, Grandmother Zhao Yu is after all from the Evil Sky Pavilion. You must be cautious with her words. The prince standing in the palace was none other than the current royal family's crown prince, Lu Ji. The Empress Dowager, with her eyes slightly closed, spoke in a stern tone. Do you also want to see me die? Lu Ji's face changed slightly, and he immediately knelt. Grandson dares not. I am only afraid that something may happen to you. The Empress Dowager replied calmly, shaking her head. If anything were to happen to me, it would have happened in the Heavenswell Garden. Why would it wait until now? After the incident in the Heavenswell Garden, she now felt disgusted by any of the princes. Lu Ji hurriedly said, I will definitely give you an explanation about second brother's matter. Please don't take it to heart. As soon as Lu Ji finished speaking, Li Yunzhao, who was standing beside, spoke. Your Highness, there is something we would like to say, but we're unsure if it's appropriate. Li Yunzhao was, after all, a trusted confidant of the Empress Dowager, and Lu Ji had to pay attention to his words. Li Yunzhao continued, the Empress Dowager's illness cannot be delayed any longer. His Majesty has already given his approval. If your Highness truly wants to show filial piety, you should be more understanding of the Empress Dowager's condition. Li Yunzhao looked outside the palace and lowered his voice. The death of second prince has also deeply saddened the Empress Dowager. You should stop bringing it up in front of her. Lu Ji stood up and bowed. Grandmother, I have a personal guard with profound cultivation. Since you are going, I will have him escort you. The Empress Dowager waved her hand, still not opening her eyes. Go on. Grandson takes his leave. Lu Ji retreated from the Longevity Tranquility Palace, and just as he exited the palace, his guards followed him. Lu Ji walked with his hands behind his back and said, tell Giang Liang to escort the Empress Dowager to the Evil Sky Pavilion. I will take good care of his family and bring Gian Ien's head back. He will be handsomely rewarded. 1 week later, during this week, Lingzhou had been in the Eastern Pavilion, studying heavenly writing until his extraordinary power reached its saturation point. After the extraordinary power reached saturation, continuing to study heavenly writing seemed to only increase the number of insights. However, Lingzhou still stopped and opened the system interface to check his remaining lifespan, 6,574 days. Breaking through the 9-leaf stage would shorten his lifespan. If the reversal cards were sufficient, could he break through this bottleneck? Lingzhou pondered this again. He still had 22 reversal cards. Lingzhou casually used one, and as before, the vibrant energy around the Eastern Pavilion gathered towards him. Soon, the gathering was complete, and his remaining lifespan showed 6,874 days. It seemed to have been affected. The 9-leaf stage and lifespan were interconnected, and the reversal cards would become even more important. Fortunately, the price hadn't increased. It seemed that the price of the reversal cards wasn't affected. He then looked at the system interface and saw 2 side tasks related to Yanrong, one for the lifespan of fragrant grass, and the other for the new heavenly writing scroll. Both tasks were still incomplete. It was clear that fragrant grass had a close relationship with Yanrong and the longevity sword. Lingzhou thought about that sword. At the same time, in the reflection cave, Yanrong was sitting cross-legged. Strangely, the longevity sword emitted a red glow, as if sensing something, and occasionally, a faint red energy would float up and enter his body. As night fell and the moonlight grew strong, the longevity sword quieted down and no longer moved. Suddenly, Yanrong grunted softly, and a streak of blood appeared at the corner of his mouth. Punishment for Yanrong. Gained 300 merit points. He opened his eyes and sighed, seemingly unsurprised by the result. Just like Siwuya, he had tried to break through after his cultivation was restricted. Unfortunately, it ended in failure. Since Siwuya couldn't find a way to break it, how could anyone else? But people are always like that. Until they hit the south wall, they won't turn back. Yanrong stroked the longevity sword in his hand and shook his head, saying, I won't die. As soon as the words were spoken, a voice suddenly came from behind, trying to break the divine curse. Yanrong froze for a moment, then turned around to see Lingzhou standing with his hands behind his back, having crossed the barrier. When he heard the system reward merit points, he knew Yanrong was trying to figure out a way to break the body-binding divine spell. Yanrong helplessly said, it's better than sitting around doing nothing. Lingzhou walked over to a stone bench and sat down slowly. He pointed to the stone bench across from him, signaling Yanrong to sit. Yanrong was a bit surprised. During his years of studying at the Evil Sky Pavilion, he had never been treated like this. Looking at his master, whose demeanor was calm and composed, so different from before, Shangrong found it hard to believe. Once Yu Shangrong sat down, Lu Zhou stroked his beard and said, "Since you called me master, you must answer my questions honestly." Yu Shangrong furrowed his brows, unsure of what question his master would ask. He instinctively felt resistance to such a situation. "I will answer everything except for the matter of memory," Yu Shangrong said. Lu Zhou had already anticipated this. In fact, even if Yu Shangrong didn't speak, he could still infer some things about his memory, so forcing him to talk was meaningless. "Did you never attempt to break through to the Nine Leaf?" Lu Zhou asked. When Yu Shangrong heard the question, he replied frankly, "I did. As cultivators, a peak 8-leaf cultivator standing at the threshold of 9 leaf, no one can suppress their curiosity and not want to open that door to see what lies behind it. Unfortunately, behind that door is endless darkness, with no future or hope in sight." Lu Zhou nodded. "You come from the gentleman country. Your lifespan is the same as fragrant grass." Yu Shangrong's heart stirred slightly, but he quickly calmed himself. This was not a secret. Fragrant grass was a unique plant of the gentleman country. After so many mentions of it, surely someone in the vast evil sky pavilion would know. Lu Zhou added, "Even the 8-leaf stage will only extend your life by 500 years at most." Upon hearing this, Yu Shangrong quickly grabbed the longevity sword, preparing to rise, but then noticed his master was still sitting calmly on the stone bench, not moving. Lu Zhou had no intention of taking the sword from him. He stroked his beard, wearing a look that suggested he had already anticipated this outcome. "I am going to take back your weapon. Who can stop me?" With that, his palm reached out, and a gust of forceful energy swept toward Yu Shangrong. Yu Shangrong tightly gripped the longevity sword, but the sword fell into Lu Zhou's hand. "The immortal touches my crown, and with the hair tied, I receive immortality." Lu Zhou felt the life energy on the longevity sword and confirmed one thing. The rumor that the longevity sword absorbs a bit of life energy with each person it kills was true. No wonder Yu Shangrong valued the longevity sword so much. It was the very thing keeping him alive. This sword was his life. "Master." Yu Shangrong knelt down. Lu Zhou shook his head and said, "Is this your secret to immortality?" When Ji Tiandao bestowed the longevity sword, he probably never imagined this weapon could do such a thing. After all these years, how much effort has Yu Shangrong put into this sword? Only he knows. Yu Shangrong nodded. "Fragrant grass lives only for a day. I had no choice but to rely on this." Lu Zhou coldly replied, "Do you really think you can achieve immortality? The longevity sword cannot grant immortality. It only ensures that you and other cultivators are the same. As an 8-leaf cultivator, is 1,000 years even a luxury?" Lu Zhou threw the sword back to him and sighed deeply. The longevity sword cannot break the 1,000-year limit. Yu Shangrong fell silent, a bit surprised. He hadn't expected his master to return the longevity sword to him. Lu Zhou turned to look at Yu Shangrong and asked, "Do you hate me?" Yu Shangrong shook his head. "I dare not." Lu Zhou suddenly called out his name. Yu Shangrong's heart skipped a beat, and he tightened his grip on the longevity sword. Lu Zhou calmly stroked his beard and said, "Yu Shangrong, I can tell you clearly, I will definitely kick open the door to the 9 leaf." After saying that, Lu Zhou turned and left the reflection cave. Yu Shangrong stood frozen, staring blankly at his master. At this moment, the longevity sword vibrated again. He pressed the sword down and muttered to himself, "I told you, after my battle with senior brother, I would retreat from the world. Why make things difficult for me?" He felt the remaining life energy inside. The remaining life energy, it's better to let go. Once buried, you will be with me forever. After saying this, Yu Shangrong returned deeper into the reflection cave, sitting cross-legged, no longer attempting to break the divine curse. 3 days later, a flying ship left the divine capital, bypassing human cities. Heading towards the evil sky pavilion, Lingzhou spoke up, "Your Majesty, rest assured. We've dealt with the pavilion lord of the evil sky pavilion before. He is not a bloodthirsty demon. Besides, Zhao Yu is his disciple. If that were the case, would Zhao Yu have so easily returned to the evil sky pavilion?" The Empress Dowager lay on the chair, weakly nodding her head. "With your words, I can rest assured." Standing nearby, Giang Liang crossed his arms and said, "Your Majesty, a demon is still a demon. We must be cautious in this matter." Lingzhou was unconcerned. "Giang Liang, you've followed His Highness the Crown Prince for many years, but there are many things you don't know. What wisdom does Unic have?" In the battle at the Lotus platform, it was the evil sky pavilion's founder who turned the tide and saved many cultivators. This matter had long spread throughout the cultivation world. Another thing, besides the blacklist ranking of the evil sky pavilion's eldest disciple, Yinghai, the rest of their members' blacklist rankings had almost disappeared. Jiang Liang nodded. "I hope that's the case." Lingzhou offered a warning. "We know your cultivation is profound, but I still advise you, once we arrive at the evil sky pavilion, don't act recklessly. At that time, even I and the Empress Dowager won't be able to save you." Jiang Liang smiled slightly. "Unically, you worry too much. My mission on this trip is to ensure the Empress Dowager's safety." At this moment, the Empress Dowager, lying on the ground chair, spoke in an extremely calm voice. "Jiang Liang, I've heard your cultivation is quite high. What do you think of Unic Li's cultivation beside me?" Jiang Liang thought for a moment and replied, "If we were to engage in a full-on battle, Jiang Liang wouldn't be a match for Unic Li. But if it's about other methods, I'm confident I could win." Lingzhou smiled and said, "What the Empress Dowager doesn't know is that guard Jiang once infiltrated the northern frontier's Gentle Edge Kingdom alone, assassinated the kingdom's ruler, and achieved an unprecedented feat. Anyone who becomes guard Jiang's target, there's no one he can't kill. The Empress Dowager nodded after hearing this. So, you are a talent for great flame. From now on, you must serve the court well. Unic has served me for many years, and I trust his judgment. You should listen to Unic advice as well. Yes, your majesty, Giang Liang said, then stepped aside, and the flying chariot continued flying toward the evil sky pavilion. Unic looked around, then approached Giang Liang's side. Guard Jiang. Giang Liang was taken aback, unsure of what Unic was trying to do. Lingzhou said, I have a few heartfelt words I'd like to discuss with you. Guard Jiang. Guard Jiang, what mission did the Crown Prince entrust you with at Evil Sky Pavilion? Giang Liang was startled. Unic, why do you ask this? Lingzhou gave him a meaningful look. You excel at assassination. If the Crown Prince truly wanted to protect the Empress, why would he send you? Giang Liang was momentarily speechless. Lingzhou smiled and said, do you know why His Majesty is at ease with letting the Empress go to Evil Sky Pavilion? Giang Liang shook his head, as he was also puzzled. The Empress was of such high status. Why would she personally risk going to Evil Sky Pavilion? How could His Majesty trust her to do so? Giang Liang couldn't figure it out. Lingzhou explained, the owner of Evil Sky Pavilion, Ji Tiandao, was an old acquaintance of the late Emperor. Upon hearing this, Jiang Liang's eyes widened in surprise. He had never expected that this notorious villain, whom everyone condemned, had such a relationship with the late Emperor. If they were old acquaintances, why did Evil Sky Pavilion repeatedly oppose the royal family? You are mistaken, Unic explained seriously. Evil Sky Pavilion has never been an enemy to the royal family. The real conflict was caused by his eldest disciple, Yinghai, and his seventh disciple, Siwuya. Jiang Liang was confused. Unic, if you have something to say, just say it. I am but a mere warrior, far too foolish to understand. Lingzhou nodded. What I am saying is the same as I mentioned before. I advise Guard Jiang to be cautious once we arrive at Evil Sky Pavilion. If something goes wrong, not even the Empress, let alone the Crown Prince, will be able to protect you. Weigh the risks and benefits yourself. Lingzhou finished speaking, then left with a wave of his sleeve. Jiang Liang frowned, standing still in place, deep in thought. The afternoon passed, and Lu Zhou was in the East Pavilion studying the matter of the lifespan limit. His desk was filled with books. From time to time, female disciples brought more books to the East Pavilion. Pavilion Lord, all the books on lifespan have been brought over. Lu Zhou nodded and said, I see. At that moment, little Yuaner's voice came from outside. Master, the flying chariot from Divine Capital has arrived, and fifth senior sister has gone to receive them. Master, are you reading? Lu Zhou glanced at a few books briefly but didn't have the energy to focus on more. He looked up at little Yuaner and said, Yuaner, keep an eye on Reflection Cave and report any unusual movements immediately. Understood, Master. Little Yuaner took her orders and left the East Pavilion. Lu Zhou's gaze fell on the books in front of him, muttering, the gentleman country has a short lifespan. They use cultivation to extend it, but those who live long can only reach 500 years. In other words, even though Yanrong has the longevity sword, his lifespan is only half of a normal cultivator's. While Lu Zhou was deep in thought, Ming Shirin arrived outside the East Pavilion, calling, the people from Divine Capital are already waiting in the main hall. I see. Lu Zhou waved his sleeve and walked out of the East Pavilion. A moment later, Zhao Yu and a royal physician helped a majestic elderly woman into the main hall. Gian Ien was not far away, staring at the elderly woman without blinking. Lu Zhou's gaze swept across the crowd, and most of them had arrived. Please sit. Just by glancing at the old demon, Lu Zhou, the Empress Dowager, who had lived for centuries, blushed, and her heart began to flutter. Old sir, you truly resemble an old acquaintance of mine from the past. Lu Zhou stroked his beard and remained silent after hearing this. Ji Tiandao had once met Emperor Yongshou and the Empress Dowager in front of him, back when they were still in their prime. Time had passed, and everything had changed. He never expected that the Empress Dowager would recognize something from the past. Who said her eyes had grown dim and her mind muddled with age? But these things weren't important. Lu Zhou waved his hand and said, everyone else, leave. Many who had wanted to watch the scene had to leave the hall temporarily. Lingzhou and the royal physician stayed, and Gian Ien and Zhao Yu also remained. Lu Zhou's gaze fell on the Empress Dowager. Perhaps because of his extraordinary power, he felt that his mental and visual faculties had improved significantly. He could see a faint purple mist emanating from the Empress Dowager, confirming the presence of witchcraft. Though not a deadly spell, it certainly disturbed the mind and kept one awake. It seemed that Bama and Moli didn't dare to harm the Empress Dowager, so they resorted to such a small trick. Seeing that Lu Zhou remained silent, Lingzhou said, why don't you quickly tell the old gentleman about the situation? The royal physician on the left was trembling. How could he not be afraid when facing this old man? He stuttered, old sir, the Empress. Before he could finish, Lu Zhou raised his hand to interrupt him, saying, no need to introduce her to me. I already know the Empress Dowager's condition. As soon as this was said, the two royal physicians exchanged glances. They represented the royal family's finest medical skills. Although they were weaker in cultivation, they had considerable expertise in medicine. medicine. They had spent a long time studying the illness, and yet Evil Sky Pavilion didn't need to know. It was somewhat disheartening. Li Yunzhao bowed slightly, saying, "Does the old gentleman have a cure?" Lu Zhou clasped his hands behind his back and said, "I have my own way to cure the illness, but I must tell the Empress Dowager something." The Empress Dowager was slightly stunned upon hearing this, her eyes focusing on Lu Zhou, who stood with his hands behind his back. "Please speak, old sir." Lu Zhou slowly spoke. "I can cure the illness, but the Empress Dowager's time is running out. You must be mentally prepared." At these words, the hall fell silent. If this had been said within the palace, it would have been considered treasonous and would immediately lead to beheading. The two royal physicians exchanged looks. How could they not understand? Zhao Yu and Jian Ijian's expressions changed slightly as they looked at the Empress Dowager in disbelief. The Empress Dowager suddenly let out a hearty laugh. "I thought it was something serious. Life, old age, sickness, and death are natural parts of being human. I will die one day, and there's nothing to worry about." Lu Zhou was about to say something, but then shook his head. "Never mind, I respect your decision." He then raised his finger and pointed into the air. A faint blue energy surged, gradually entering the Empress Dowager's body as his finger moved. Meanwhile, in a certain room, Bama suddenly opened his eyes, furrowing his brow. The witchcraft is undone? There was surprise on his face, but no other emotion. The royal family's methods are indeed formidable. Moly, you've been in the palace for years, yet you still don't know the royal family's trump card. But don't worry, I'll make sure they pay the price for you. The sudden dispelling of the witchcraft left everyone stunned. The Empress Dowager let out a muffled grunt, her brow furrowing slightly as the purple mist surrounding her was instantly dispelled by the blue energy. Li Yunzhao quickly stepped forward to support her. "Empress Dowager, are you alright?" The Empress Dowager, sweating profusely, weakly said, I'm fine. No serious harm." The two royal physicians immediately checked her pulse, their faces lighting up with joy. "Congratulations, Empress Dowager, congratulations. The witchcraft has been undone." Lu Zhou stroked his beard, his expression calm. "If I couldn't break such a simple witchcraft, my old face wouldn't be worth showing." He softly called out Li Yunzhao's name. Li Yunzhao's awe for Lu Zhou had almost reached a new height. "Old sir, please give your orders. The Empress Dowager has just recovered from a serious illness. She should rest in the South Pavilion for now. She can return when she's ready." Upon hearing this, Li Yunzhao immediately knelt, his palms pressing forward as his forehead touched the ground. "This is excellent, excellent. We thank the old gentleman." The two royal physicians watched the scene in surprise. Although Li Yunzhao was only a personal eunuch, his position was not insignificant. Even in front of the crown prince, he had never shown such great respect. The Empress Dowager, under Zhao Yu's arrangement, stayed in the South Pavilion. Li Yunzhao stood respectfully by her bedside. "Eunuchly, bring me the things I brought with me." Li Yunzhao froze for a second, then took a brocade box from the items he had brought along. He cupped it in his hands and presented it to the Empress Dowager. "Empress Dowager, this is your longevity pill. Should we really do this?" The Empress Dowager sighed. "Many people in this world pursue longevity, including Emperor Yongshou, but I think it's a blessing to go with the flow. After I pass, I want to be buried next to Emperor Yongshou. Have a joyful funeral, and I will be satisfied. Give this to the old gentleman as a token of thanks for his help. When you leave, call Zhao Yuan. I want to have a chat with her." Li Yunzhao nodded and left the room. Then, under Ming Shireen's guidance, he arrived at the East Pavilion. "I come by the Empress Dowager's orders to thank the old gentleman. The Empress Dowager has ordered me to deliver this to Evil Sky Pavilion, and we hope the old gentleman will accept it." Ming Shireen took the brocade box from his hands, opened it, and took a quick glance. "Master, this is the longevity pill." The longevity pill, as the name suggests, is a pill that can extend one's life. It is said to be made from extremely precious heavenly materials and earthly treasures, refined through harsh conditions, and carefully forged by powerful cultivators. The Elixir Heart sect, which specializes in alchemy, has only crafted 3 to 5 of these pills over the past 1,000 years. Some cultivation sects stand tall in the cultivation world because of their pill making, and each longevity pill can extend one's life by 100 years. However, the effect diminishes with age. Therefore, the longevity pill cannot help cultivators break the 1,000-year limit. Nevertheless, the longevity pill remains a precious item sought after by many cultivators, as not every cultivator can reach the limit of their lifespan. Lu Zhou nodded. "Present it." Ming Shireen carefully sent it over and placed it on the table in front of his master. Seeing Lu Zhou resting with his eyes closed, the two of them dared not disturb him, so they respectfully withdrew. Once outside the East Pavilion, Ming Shireen grabbed Li Yunzhao and said, Hey, Uniquely, wait." Li Yunzhao furrowed his brow and looked at him. "What do you want to say?" Ming Shireen smiled faintly. "Uniquely, do you have any more longevity pills?" Li Yunzhao shook his head. "Look at what you're saying. The longevity pill is no ordinary item. How could there be any extra? This one is the last of what the late emperor found while traveling, and the Empress Dowager has never taken it. If it were anyone else, it would have been gone by now." Ming Shireen scratched his head helplessly. "All right, but you're quite skilled in dealing with people. My master also sought a longevity pill many years ago, but unfortunately, he only found one. The old gentleman's help must naturally be repaid with great courtesy. Enough of the chatter. I'm so tired. tired. Soon, evening arrived. Lu Zhou slowly opened his eyes, glanced at the brocade box in front of him, and gently waved his sleeve. The brocade box clicked open. Ding. Obtain consumable longevity pill X1 can be re-refined to improve its quality. Hearing this prompt, Lu Zhou was somewhat surprised. He didn't expect the longevity pill to be refinedly. He placed the pill in his palm, and as soon as it touched his skin, a warm sensation spread through his hand. The feeling was incredibly pleasant. The quality is decent, the purity is acceptable, and the energy is fine. Lu Zhou estimated the quality of the longevity pill and gave his evaluation. Although he didn't understand alchemy, he had seen enough and was knowledgeable. He remembered that Ji Tiandao had searched high and low for such items to extend his life, since he knew something about any pill related to lifespan. The issue is, even if it's refined to improve its quality, it wouldn't help him, right? With the reversal card, even the highest quality longevity pill doesn't seem appealing. Lu Zhou thought for a moment. Although it was useless to him, it would be good for his disciples. He casually picked it up, and a refining talisman appeared in his palm. Flames ignited, and after a brief moment, the refinement was completed, yielding a high-quality longevity pill. Reward: 500 merit points. One refining talisman for 500 merit points is not bad. A high-quality longevity pill can provide 200 years of life, provided the person's limit isn't within 200 years. Otherwise, the pill won't have much effect. In other words, this thing wouldn't be useful for him. He immediately put away the longevity pill and began to enter the state of comprehending the heavenly writing. At this moment, outside, night had fallen, the stars twinkled, and a black figure quietly flew towards the south pavilion. The person in black seemed to have left the ground, moving silently without making a sound.